So we've got a James engine which I've modified, and if I switch him on, put him on the track, he rotates backwards and forwards. I've done this twice before, 2 videos. The first one I just used a switch, a reversing switch on it, and the second one I used a big long arm that came out of the side that was hit as it went backwards and forwards. The idea behind this was, this is a beautiful switch, I think, beautiful idea. Made it so that I can understand it better if I do it like this, whereby that's my arm coming out, this side is positive, this side is negative, so this is 0 volts, this is plus volts, and the motor then is on these 2 arms which only touch on the dots, so they go down and they're like little contacts. So when the arm is moved that way, the top of the motor goes negative, and the bottom of the motor goes positive, so it goes in one direction. When it goes along and hits something, then this side, the top now becomes positive and the bottom negative, so the motor goes in the opposite direction. That worked okay, but having a long arm out the side isn't a good idea, and there's going to be other things on the track to which it will hit. So I came up with the idea of this one. It's not a Thomas, but it could be. It's just that I've modified it. It's one I had. Difficult to get the top down. I'm sure it'll go down if I put all the things on the inside. So what is there on the inside of this? Well, if we open it up, we find I've put the batteries up at the top, connected to the switch, so that they're well out of the way. I then have a lot of gubbins down here. I've put plugs on so it is able to pull it apart and rebuild it. So I have a little plug there into the cells. I also have put here a lithium cell which I needed for my relay, because it works using a relay down here, and the relay itself is a self-latching relay which is driven by 2 reed switches. Now these reed switches are in glass, and in the past I've had a lot of trouble with them, breaking them, because they're very delicate. And the way they work is, inside there are 2 contacts, and if a magnet is brought in the correct orientation close to the glass, then the contacts make, and when the magnet's moved away, the contacts break. I haven't done very well with this, because one of the reed switches is close to the wheels, which is good, but the other is away in. It should have been over here, but it seems to work okay. This is so I have it over here. Inside here I have a latching relay. It's wired as a crossover, as with the switch that I did in my first video. So the 2 poles are crossed over, so it has 2-pole relay. Bit difficult to see what it's like on there. So if we have a look at another relay, what we find is that we have the changeover contacts, so we don't know which way this is going to be. On a normal relay, you'd have normally closed and normally open contacts, But that doesn't apply to this because it doesn't have a fixed state. It can be either up or down depending upon what was the last current that was put through the coils. So it has two coils, that's why it has two extra pins at this end over a normal relay, which would, when the power is removed, goes back to a set state. So the beauty of this is it just needs a bit of power to one of the coils to set it in a particular state. Of course, one could build a latching relay using a thyristor or something, but I was fascinated by these. The problem with them is they are 5 volts. They will go down to about 3 volts, and that's why I've used a lithium cell. It's only 32 milliamp hours, but this shouldn't take very much, so it should last for quite a long time. So yeah, that's my latching relay, which is what makes this work. The thing itself, I've actually redesigned it. It is one I got off the internet. The people were quite open and said it was sold for spares. It had inside it a beautiful little mechanism. This is one of these mechanisms. There are lots of different mechanisms inside Thomas's, but this is one peculiar to this. And what it has inside is the motor, of course, but the worm isn't on the motor. The worm is on a separate shaft. That in a way is a good idea, because what I've found is if you put a worm straight on this shaft, the shaft tends to move backwards and forwards, and eventually the motors wear out. But this one should have had another gear coming across in here, coming out of the hole here, and which is pushed on by this part of the switch. So when that moves across, it's supposed to push on the hole here and push the gear across. But on this one it was missing. But that didn't matter because I wanted to try to build my own base unit anyway. I have just put the worm gear straight on the shaft, and therefore it does move slightly backwards and forwards. Some people do that, and some commercial units seem to do it, so maybe it'll be okay. I've then made my own wheels. Making the wheels then was a difficult process, so I made up a little device I could put in the lathe, get a piece of plastic, drill these 2 holes in it, well, 2 pieces of plastic with holes in, so we make 2 wheels at the same time, so they're both the same size. Put that in the lathe, and then just turn the plastic down until it circles, and then have a 2mm drill to drill through the middle into the centre. So that's how I've made these 2 wheels. I've used one of the holes for putting the rod, connecting rod into, and that's the other one, and then I've drilled through the middle. Put this back together then. It's on a 2mm shaft. The 2mm shaft is held in place by this paper clip which comes round here and holds it down, and then the motor is held by a wire across here and an awful lot of gun glue. But that seems to work, so I don't know if I'm happy with that or not. It's quite a lot of work just to modify it, but it does give me a lot of room up above to put other gizmos into these Thomas type engines. This one's James, I think. I was quite happy with that, yeah. But this then is the dual latching relay. So let's have a look at how that works. If we sort of have a piece of paper, find me a piece of paper. Here's a piece of paper. Let's Do we want to? I don't know. Let's try zooming out. Paper's zoomed off. May have to hold that. Might be nice to have something to draw with. Everything's falling apart. What do I want? Red, black, and a couple of other colours. Let's have green and orange so I can sort this out. We'll start with a motor. And we've got a pencil. Yeah, that's a pencil, but has it got a lead? Yeah. So we have a motor. There's my motor. It's going to have two contacts, one top, one bottom. And that then is going to go, let's draw it over this way, going to go to my relay. Now my relay is 2 poles, so it has 2 sides on it, like so. Now on this particular relay, the common is at this end. That is an interesting sort of difference. So I have to link that and that, so that one side goes to one side of the motor. Let's draw the green as going there, coming across to here, and we'll do orange for the other side, coming across like so. So we've got our crossover there. So this side of our motor can come across here, and it can either go up to the orange, I'll draw it a bit further, up to the orange there, or it can come to the green sort of there. So we've got 2 positions for this contact, and we've got the same for the other contact, which can come down here to the green, or it can bob up to the orange there. So this contact can go to orange when it's in one position and green in the other. When this one's on orange, this one's on green, so it goes in one direction. When this flips up, this one becomes orange, and this one flips down at the same time, thus becoming green, so it goes in the opposite direction. So this has 2 coils on it. So to get it to work, all I have to do is say connect that one up to the positive rail, and then this have the reed switches, one reed switch there, which will flip these 2 contacts either both up or both to the middle. Let's assume this one does both outwards, so that one's down, that one's up, and this one flips them to the middle, so that one flips down and that one flips up, and each of these then goes to a normally open reed switch, and the reed switches themselves then go down to 0 volts. So that's how this works. It seems to work well. There's one disadvantage of it, and that is as soon as one of these goes, the contacts flip over, and this flipping over immediately isn't a good idea. It's going to produce all sorts of peculiar things in the motor. So what we've got, let's draw that in there. That one's positive and that one's negative. So that's what we've got, and that's what works. But as I say, it's not a good idea. This flips instantaneously, so the motor is changed over very quickly. Could I alter that? I don't know. I've thought about putting a transistor into the power line, say there, with a connection to each of these, perhaps with a diode, so that need a resistor in it, of course, as well, so that when either of these goes low, this pulls the transistor low, so it'd have to have something to pull it high. So normally it's pulled high. When these go low, it pulls it low and stops it. And it would need a capacitor in somehow, so it would stay low for a fraction of a second, stopping the engine at one end, well, at each end, and then it would give the thing chance to turn over. I'm not convinced about it though. I'd have to build it and try it. Yeah, interesting idea anyway. So there we have it. There's our James that oscillates between two magnets. The magnets in the track then, I've just drilled 5mm holes in the track and put the magnets in, one each side. So this one operates one reed switch and this one operates the other reed switch. All in all, a very satisfying project. Seems to work okay. I need to sort out the battery problem, try and get a 4.5 volt battery in there maybe. A 3.6 volt battery in there, which would operate the relay and make it so it goes backwards and forwards. Yep, certainly one way of doing it, and certainly been interesting. So I'll move on now. Where to move? Not too sure whether to build a transistor in or to move on to try and use a microprocessor somehow to control it. Very interesting. Very what project? Very more advanced than the little lever sticking out the side, but I still think I have a long way to go. Bye now. Bye.